Welcome back to Raw the Podcast. I'm your host, Alison, founder of TheCheekyClean, a wellness brand empowering conscious consuming, and the host of the show where we are having raw conversations to support collective growth. I'm so honored to be in studio here today with Jess Patz. Jess is a speaker, a nervous system educator, and domestic violence advocate whose work explores the intersections of trauma, health, and body-centered healing. As a TEDx presenter, Jess draws from lived experiences and trauma-informed education to help people understand how survival shapes the body and how regulation restores capacity. Her work challenges traditional ideas of resilience and offers a restorative path from survival to sustainable healing. So powerful. Jess, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. So honored to meet you. We got to spend a little time before the pod episode got started here, just chatting and getting to know each other.
Mm-hmm.
I think my favorite thing about the podcast is getting to connect with people in real life and build a community of genuine friendships and like minds and inspiration. And so it's great to meet you in life. And, you know, I think there's always a reason why paths cross.
Yeah.
You had mentioned that you probably found my page through Jen Canava from Root Cause Integrative Health. Love Jen and Drew. And I think it's just so cool when you think about Cleveland, but the world in general, we really are 1 degree of separation. And it's cool to now have you here in the studio.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really, really excited. And I'm glad that I found you.
Yeah, good. I'm so glad you're here. So this is a powerful conversation that I wanted to have with you. I, saw your page and the work that you're doing, the speaking, the courage that you carry to vulnerably put your story into the world. We so often put our highlight reels out into the world, and these facades of perfection that ends up driving these stigmas and stereotypes that as a society we feel like we need to live up to. And I was so captivated by the work that you're doing to share your story, to help inspire and encourage other people to become and heal, to find balance, physical health and restoration, emotional healing, and be a walking example of that being possible. So thank you for sharing the hard shit, because a lot of people don't. And that's really where, as the pod is called, Raw, that's where we learn and grow. So it takes guts.
Well, I appreciate you saying that.
Of course.
Greatly.
Yeah. You're recently, I think as of yesterday, right? Your TED Talk came out?
Yes.
Yes.
Yesterday
Congratulations.
it went live. Thank you so much.
I know, because I knew that you were going to be on it, but I didn't realize it was so recent. And so when I went to search it and it was like just came out 12 hours ago, I'm like, damn, girl, we're celebrating here on Raw the Pod today.
Yeah.
That's so badass.
I appreciate it. It was, my gosh, to be able to say that, like, A, I've done it. B, it's like live out there in the universe feels completely surreal.
Yeah.
Because it has been a labor of love and stress and just, it's a tedious process. People warn you about it, like the TEDx of it all. You just kind of think, oh, well, as a speaker professionally, it's going to be hard. You hear the rumors, and then doing it. Holy cow.
What was the most challenging part for you?
Being concise.
Yeah.
Because brevity is not my strong suit. And I'm used to rocking like a 45 to 60 minute keynote. So I have all this time to like play and laugh and engage with people and vibe with the room. And then you're cut to 12 minutes to really hit home a powerful message. They want something new and innovative. That's really going to captivate the world because it's such a large platform.
Yeah.
So you feel the massive weight of that. And that part was challenging, writing it out and then practicing and practicing and practicing. And for me, on a personal level, it was after my stroke. So cognitively, things looked really different. My memory recall was not what it was before. So preparing for a talk was really different. I had to use different strategies. And it's like that fine line of, okay, you have to like be confident and know that you can do it, but you're freaking stressed as hell because it's this huge thing. But if I overstress, I'm going to do way more damage than I need to. So you have to like try and play cool when internally you're losing your friggin' mind. It's just
100%.
amazing that it's out there. Mine took a little bit longer to get out there. We had to review some of the theories that I shared about how trauma relates to your physical well being, which just tells me that we have a lot more to talk and share in that regard.
Yep.
Because what I shared in my world is just very normal and like
Right.
common sense and
Right.
typical conversation. So everyone else in my speaking class actually had theirs go live last week, and I had to like wait and make sure that mine was going to make it to the light of day. So when I
Wow.
tell you that I found out this went live yesterday, on my way to another event, I was like, oh my gosh, keep it together. Keep it together. Don't break down into hysterics.
Wow.
I'm really grateful that it's out there and everyone can kind of view it and hopefully relate to it and gain something from it in some way.
I love that. Well, congratulations.
Thank
And
you.
as I told you when you came in, you're an incredible speaker,
Mm.
and the talk itself was really powerful. You did a
Thank you.
great job of really addressing some important topics, but in a way that wasn't overwhelming. It was really relatable.
Thank you very, very much.
Yeah. My brand is about health and wellness. And I find myself in the wellness world
Yeah.
to be what I feel is unique in the sense that I don't just focus on the physical side of things. I'm a huge proponent that it's a body, mind, and soul approach. And we are inundated now with content, resources, ways to be physically healthier. But we still have such a long way to go when it comes to health of the nervous system, of our emotional well-being, of our spirituality. And these areas are so critical to our overall healing.
Yep.
And so I applaud you for giving light to some of these topics that are still, need a lot of research behind them, and we need to connect a lot of dots still. And it can obviously open up conversation of people who think like,
no way.
No way.
Yeah. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. And as normalized as I think it is, then I come across people who are like, really? That just seems like too woo-woo. And I am not that person. I have never, growing up, the doctors, it's always Western medicine. Like that's how I was raised. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I go to the rheumatologist as a lupus patient. I have tons of specialists and regular practitioners, but I also have a great functional medicine specialist.
Yeah.
I kind of marry those two philosophies together. And I just think now we would find a nice word, lazy, to not entertain all of the information that has been presented to us in 2026.
Yeah.
There have been Harvard University studies around the connections between emotional distress, trauma, and how they genuinely change our bodies on a cellular level. They rewire us and cause serious physical ramifications over a prolonged period of time. I am not a clinician. I do not have a PhD. I don't pretend to. I don't quote any kind of scientific journals or studies for those specific reasons. I have great sources that I'm happy to share with anyone. But when you start talking about it amongst even just your coworkers, friends, family, you're going to hear people start to say, oh my gosh, I know someone, or I've experienced this, or my mom was having all of these weird medical things that doctors couldn't put together. They were treating the symptoms and making her feel better, but no one could figure out what was happening. They couldn't get to the root of the problem. But it's wild because her first marriage was like really bad, super abusive, or her childhood was a nightmare, I found out. And they start to unpack it, and then you can't ignore it. It's slapping you in the face right in front of you. And it isn't woo-woo. There is actual science and clinical evidence behind it. You just have to be willing to look at it.
You have to be willing to look at it, and it's an alternative way of thinking. And I think that's why it's still not mainstream. It's why I'm such a huge fan of Dr. Joe Dispenza, because he is utilizing what would typically be a woo-woo practice of meditation, and he's holding these events of thousands and thousands and thousands of people for the purpose of gaining scientific data to back up these theories and show biologically how the body is changed, everything from the immune system, the nervous system, our gut health, breast milk, that changes over time, over a 7-day period of when you're able to shift the heightened state of survival that
Mm.
so many people are living in.
Yep.
And it's so powerful. And I do have a theory that a lot of what is labeled woo-woo, like meditation, for example, even if it's scientifically backed, it's not being pushed hard from a, Western medical standpoint, because there isn't a whole lot of money to be made in giving people a free resource like meditation to come back home to themselves and heal themselves. And I'm not against Western medicine either. I think there's a
Sure.
marriage that can happen.
Yep.
But there's also a vested interest in Western medicine and pharmaceutical companies
Mm-hmm.
for us to stay in a highly cortisol survival mode sick state.
Yep.
And so as long as this exists, and money's to be made, there's always going to be advertising, propaganda, and science to back that, and less of an emphasis on ways that we can heal ourselves and learn these other modalities. But they do exist. And that's why I think it takes, like I said, courage and bravery to be willing to talk about stuff that isn't so mainstream yet accepted, because it's but so powerful to help people learn and grow.
Well, I appreciate you acknowledging that. And I mean, same to you, because you're out here shouting it from the mountaintops. And I just think more people need to do that. I mean, even locally, just the other night, I had the opportunity to go speak at Ninjoku Strong. Dr. Ninjoku, I mean, it is a gym, but it's a very unique gym. I'm not even going to try and talk about what they do. They have this.
The vests.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very cool.
It's so scientific, and it's like, you're working out for hours and it's really only 20 minutes, but they encompass mind, body, spirit, soul. It's not just the
Very
physicality
cool.
of healing. They have cupping, they have red light therapies. He is so focused on everything that his members have been bringing to him outside of how they're physically feeling. And he's very aware that how you're physically feeling isn't just about, oh, my knee's achy, I must have overdone it at the gym, or my joints are bothering me, that there's 100,000 other things that might be taken into consideration.
Yeah.
And I love that from a practitioner perspective, he's willing to look at this full scope of a human being.
Absolutely.
And now he's like an investigator trying to figure out, how can I do this? How can I do this? Who can I bring in? How can I better serve my community and my people? And I'm like, oh yeah, those are people I'm linking arms with for life.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, even as a patient, my gosh, I was in front of physicians for years of my life with unexplained blood clots in my lungs in my 20s. I was gaining crazy amounts of weight. I was having syncopal episodes. I mean, the list goes on and on. Unexplained, weird medical things. But you treat the problem.
Right.
Make sure I'm not dying, which, I mean, yay. That's important. But no one thought to try and look at why all of this weird shit was happening.
And that's what's it's no knock on doctors themselves.
Sure.
It's a knock on the system.
Bingo.
And I'm happy to take the swing, because, and we'll talk about your experience. It does take sometimes experience that is so tragic to make you aware.
Yeah.
And these systems completely failed my parents. And so it made me hyper aware. And then I'm working behind the scenes in this large chemical company where I'm part of that system.
Yeah.
So I and my whole thing is, it's until we start to shift the systems, and the only way that happens is when people as individuals become empowered to learn how to heal, because there's no training for emotional, lifestyle. It's not root cause at all. It's very much you have a symptom, we can fix that. So it's masking these things that go back. And I love that there's more of a conversation around these things that really are opportunities for us to all heal collectively. And I believe that there's opportunity for, our country to continue to thrive even if we heal. So
I agree.
But something that, after listening to your TED Talk, there was a couple things that really stuck with me.
Okay.
One thing that you said is that safety is biological.
Ooh.
Yes. And when you're in survival mode, that becomes your normal.
Yeah.
And I want to talk through a lot of those experiences that led you there. But I'm very much a scientific person,
I love it.
So it's people I think could see that I am really spiritual and do woo-woo stuff or whatever.
Sure.
But I'm the type that wants to understand the why behind things. And so I went down this like rabbit hole after hearing your talk and hearing your experience and things that you were saying. And I learned that 61% of adults, roughly, are experiencing at least one adverse experience, such as emotional abuse, household dysfunction, addiction, violence, neglect, mental health in the home. And around 50 million Americans are living with an autoimmune disease, 75 to 80% of those, which are women.
Yep.
And research shows, this is Harvard Health research, shows that chronic stress and trauma are strongly associated with increased inflammation, immune dysregulation, and higher risk of autoimmune disease.
Bingo.
So it is actually a very scientific approach when you are thinking about healing the body from a holistic standpoint. And I would love to like step back a bit and talk about how you got to the space that you are, which is being this advocate for empowerment, because it often takes, like I said, this awareness that can be really jarring and challenges that really strip you to come out on the other side and grow and change and evolve, which is such a beautiful thing. When do you feel like your body became biologically unsafe?
I mean, truly, originally, it probably all began during my first marriage, which was pretty horrifically abusive.
Okay.
And I was young. I was in my early 20s.
Early 20s. So, and
late teens.
And from a childhood standpoint, did you have pretty solid relationship models in your life?
Oh, yeah. My parents were very happily married for 25 years before my mom passed away.
Okay. How old were you when she passed?
I was 20 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that makes you very vulnerable.
Very. I was 20 years old. I was 6 months pregnant with my second child when my mom passed away.
Oh, wow.
She had been sick off and on my whole life. Not super sick, but I always knew there was something with her. I think it's all like a generational thing. My kids know I have lupus. I talk very openly when I'm in the hospital or what things are going on, or not in an inundative kind of way, but if they have questions, I have answers. But also they are kids and we make sure life is fun and joyous and it's not like doom and gloom if mommy is sick or whatever. But growing up for me, I think the generational difference was I didn't need to know any of that information. So I knew my mom was sick. I didn't really know why until significantly later. She was born with something called Turner syndrome, which is a chromosomal disorder. It only affects women. And for whatever reason, to my knowledge, I don't believe they have still located the direct correlation, but you have severe liver disease complications. So as early as like second grade, I can remember having her. She had really bad, not in a I don't want to get graphic. She was vomiting blood. I walked in on her because her liver was failing. And when that happens, your body creates these new vessels and pathways to get to your liver, but they're really weak. And so some of them in her esophagus had ruptured, and that's what happened. And again, I had no understanding of what was going on. I just knew I walked into my mom and this big thing was happening. But I just always knew mom wasn't the healthiest, but they kept my childhood. I mean, I was a gymnast for a long time. I went to private school. Then I transitioned into basketball, and whatever I wanted to do, they figured it out despite whatever was going on with
So
my
you
mom.
look back on your childhood and see it as this really beautiful, safe environment.
Very much so.
But you also saw your mom was sick here and there,
Yeah.
you know, and maybe there was this potential where like she doesn't get better.
100%.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, in hindsight specifically, even like people will ask now, kind of the no quit attitude that I have, or just this continuation to keep going and keep fighting. And it is just second nature, I think, because of her. This unspoken, I never saw her complain or cry or be afraid. Or, I mean, she was just this little like 4'9", 4'10", maybe, nothing of a woman who faced immense medical challenges and she gave no shits.
Handled it with grace.
Yeah, she showed up all the time. And oh my gosh, I'm sure I put her through hell as an only child, being like a little brat. And it was just her life. She knew she couldn't change it and handled it with immense grace. So I just
learned a lot of resilience.
I learned a lot of resilience
from her.
And then also, even when I met eventually that abusive first husband, She had got really, really sick my senior year of high school. We thought she was going to pass. And there was, again, no conversations really.
Yeah.
And I think it was kind of a coping mechanism, not in any negative way towards my father. He was the most astonishing caregiver I think a person could ever be. He lost every sense of himself in caring for her. But watching that I was an outsider to my mom almost dying multiple times. I wasn't directly involved. And I think that affected me a lot more than I realized in those moments. So that when I did meet him, I was just so desperate and starved for like the love and attention that I wasn't getting from my mom because she was sick and their focus needed to be getting her well, saving her life, and all of those things. So it was just, I was served up on a silver platter. Like ready for someone to love bomb the crap out of me and scoop me up. And because my childhood had, for all intents and purposes, been pretty idyllic in this quaint little town.
You didn't think this was gonna, like, why would
I'd never been exposed to things like that.
A person who has ill intentions
Never
be coming into your world?
Yes, we did. Divorce was like not a thing that I was ever really around. I didn't know that kind of language or abuse. These were not conversations that I had growing up.
And so how you married him at 20 or?
Married, how old? I was 20, I think. Barely 21 when we got married.
Wow. And how long were you together before then?
2 years, 2.5 years.
Okay.
Almost 3.
And is he your age or?
2 years older, 3 years older than me. Okay. Yeah, a little bit older.
And so you met him at this very, just from someone who's lost a parent. I've lost 2. So it's like I know the dynamic. And my mom also got sick when I was a senior. So we have a lot of like correlating vibes.
Very much so.
And, you don't even realize, I think, this piece of you that's missing and leaving and how unconscious you are to that when you're navigating it. And now I'm sure as a mom, you have even more of a perspective, right?
Tremendous.
And, I also found myself in like some relationships where I just wanted that love so badly. So I can totally relate. So you met him at a very, time vulnerably. Was, like looking back now with the strength and the perspective that you have, like, can you see red flags prior to marriage? Or was it like once he locked you down, things shifted?
No, prior to marriage, 100,000%. I tried to give the ring back multiple times before we got married.
Okay. So you guys were like, it was like kind of tumultuous.
Oh, yeah. After we got married, it just went from like bad to a literal nightmare to, oh, you said for better, for worse. Here's worse. What are you going to do about it? Like daring me because he knew divorce wasn't in my vocabulary. It just wasn't something that we ever talked about. So he thought he could push and push and push, and my ass wasn't going to go anywhere. And I thought that too. I just thought this really was this must be part of it. And I'm a very stubborn person, for better or worse, in that manner. So we were young. We had children. He had met my mother. He was with us when she passed away.
And that just connects you so deeply.
I'm going to make this shit work.
Yeah.
Because how am I ever going to be with anybody who didn't know her?
I know.
Wasn't there when she passed away? How am I going to explain the gravity of the magnitude of this woman to somebody else? No one's going to get it. I couldn't even grasp.
Yeah.
And it's also, that saying like an unfamiliar heaven is far scarier than a familiar hell.
Yes. So and that goes back to your point in the TED Talk about like survival becoming your normal.
Yeah.
Like you were so used to this survival state in your relationship that it almost seemed like it would be a bigger loss to not have it.
100%.
Yeah.
I just was accustomed to, at a certain point, obviously there were so many different forms of abuse and it didn't start out physical. The red flags were like, oh, I probably knew he was talking to other girls, or I caught him. I surprised him at work one night with like, for me, it was so much money at the time on a bottle of Giorgio Armani Acqua di Gio cologne. And I went to like surprise him. I was so excited. And he walked up to like outside of wherever he was working with another woman. And my heart sank. And I was pregnant at the time.
With our first.
And his flip was, oh, I'm just being so chivalrous and walking her to her car. And your heart wants to believe that so bad. And I could see in this woman's eyes, she was like, oh my gosh, what did I just like walk in the middle of? What is happening? Because whatever he had told her did not involve me and my pregnant belly.
Right.
At all.
Yeah.
But I wanted to believe I wanted to believe the lie he was telling me so bad. I chose to go with it.
Yes. And you have this other element of having a child and being a mom for the first time.
Yeah.
How are you going to do it on your own?
Bingo. Had no idea. And
Yeah.
that to me, doing it on my own also didn't seem like an option. You have a child, you get married, you figure it out.
Yeah.
That is what you do.
Yeah.
So there were so many little red flags like that, coercive control, manipulation, the gaslighting was wild. So by the time things turned physical, you just feel like you're in the twilight zone. And it's really easy for them to flip the narrative and say, "Psh, it wasn't that big of a deal. What are you talking about? You're being so dramatic." And again, because you'd rather believe that lie than the reality of what just happened to you.
Yeah.
And then the cycle of abuse continues where it gets a little bit better because they know they have to like pat everything and be kind of nice and go into the honeymoon stage and make it a little bit better before the next explosion happens to keep you around.
Yeah.
Uh, and it just gets bigger and worse. But all of a sudden, then you're married with 2 children and you see absolutely no way out until it got so bad that like other people around us started noticing what was going on, which I wanted. At that point, I knew exactly who and what he was. I had no idea how to leave. I felt so ashamed of my life and then like the decisions that not necessarily I had made, because I know that's a really hard piece that a lot of survivors struggle with. Nothing is your fault. You've done nothing to deserve any of what you're experiencing. You have made decisions that have landed you where you are, but you didn't have all the information,
Right.
you know? So eventually, when we did leave, the sense of survivorhood just continued. That's what really threw my body into a downward spiral.
Physically. Yeah.
You think society tells you when you leave the bad situation, oh, it's going to get easier. And sure, that is hard. Statistically, when you're looking at a domestic abuse relationship or environment, leaving is absolutely the hardest time. It is the scariest, most dangerous time. And we did that. So, okay, now it's like going to be better. And then we spent a decade battling in court. And going to court is like scary and freaky anyway, because, judges are intimidating and lawyers are like argumentative and make you feel like you're lying all the time, even when you're not. And doing that for a decade of your life and having to prove every little piece of your story and your truth and the people that you have around and everything's under such a microscope. Meanwhile, now these 2 humans that are your absolute everything are being used as pawns to torture you. Because that's the norm then in post-separation abuse. That's how, similar to the medical system, to mostly no fault of judges and magistrates, it's just how the judicial system has been set up. Abusers are so smart and manipulative, and they learn how to then use the system to their advantage. And he knew the only way to continue hurting me was through the kids.
Yes.
So that's what continued.
Yeah.
And I stayed in that level of fight or flight and that survival mode for such a long time. But I didn't really know it. I just thought like, I'm doing great. I left. I did the hard thing. Like, I'm a single mom. This is awesome. We're making it happen. I'm working. I was in nursing school for a period of time. I just thought this is okay.
This is normal.
Yeah, you get really accustomed to it.
So just for people out there who might be finding themselves in a similar situation, how long was it that you were with him before it turned into actual physical abuse?
Under a year.
Under a year.
Under a year. And the first time it turned physical, I was about 3.5 months pregnant.
Oh my God.
Yeah, under a year.
I'm so sorry.
So it wasn't a super long period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just from meeting you in this short time, obviously you've changed and evolved so much, but I can tell that you're not, and probably weren't then, someone that people look at from the outside and say, like, you're a meek mouse that's easy to take advantage of.
Right.
And I think that's what's so interesting is a lot of the women who I've had the opportunity to meet who have been survivors of whether it's physical or emotional abuse are not this stereotypical, quote unquote, what society tells us as a weak woman who's prime for that.
Yeah.
For being taken advantage of. It's oftentimes like a strong, independent, like resilience, like your mom was, woman.
Yeah.
And I think that's where that's that science behind this, like, your body, right? Like, that's where it's so powerful and where it is not your fault,
Yeah.
but where it's also, I think, where, like, awareness and community can come so into play of saying, like, because you find yourself in a situation that is not good or isn't, like, ideal from the outside or what society tells us to, does not mean that we're weak. And it's okay to know that you can change.
Yeah.
And it's okay to, more importantly, say, like, this isn't okay.
Bingo.
And so you mentioned that it took other people around you. Was that the catalyst, or did you get to a point where now you have your children and you're like, because I could imagine you're probably like wrestling with this on a consistent basis of like, how do I get my kids out of this situation? Like, it's one thing for me to be
Bingo.
in this, but how do I get them out?
Mhm.
Like, was it them, or was it like, did someone come to you and be like, listen, like, we want to help you, or did you reach out for help? Like, how did that dynamic work where you finally left?
So, 100% it was my kids. By the time I decided to leave, I could not have cared less what he did to me. The abuse of any form, emotional, physical, sexual, whatever, was just normal. That was my life. I did not care. I had no regard for my own well-being. But I started to be very aware that, okay, my kids are however, like they won't be forever.
Yeah.
What happens when my daughter gets bigger and stubborn like me and talks back like me? What does that look like? What
Yeah.
happens when my son is old enough to be like considered a man
Yeah.
and learn those lessons? What does that look like? So that was on my radar, but it's a scary thought to let like fully sink in. And then there was a specific moment where he got incredibly physical at home, and it ended with me being pinned down on the steps, trying to run away from him. And I had my son, on my lap, and my daughter was on the step above me. And he ended up punching me in the face and fracturing my jaw.
Oh my God.
And I mean, almost instantaneously in that moment when he punched me, because he had certainly physically hit me and done things before, but never like closed fist punched me. And for some reason, that was like a thing for me. I kept saying, oh, well, sure, he's done this, or I have bruises, or he's done this. And strangulation was a huge thing for him, which is a vile, really lethal form of abuse. But somehow I downplayed it in my mind continuously and said, well, at least he hasn't punched me. That would be so much
Yeah.
worse. And when he did that with my children right here, I was instantaneously aware that it could have been either one of them. What if they sat up? What if I moved? They moved, something. And something like this switch in me just flipped automatically.
Mm.
And I knew we had to leave at all costs. So it didn't happen like that moment the next day. I did take the kids and leave that day.
But you had a mental decision made that day.
Yeah. I didn't really know how. I had like $62 to my name. I had been saving, change here, change from groceries. I did not have my own bank account. I had none of my own money. I was working. I had access to nothing. So I was a gymnastics coach at the time, and I tell everyone to be this kind of Karen. She was just my little saint, savior. She picked up on my lies being lies, essentially. I had walked into work with like this golf ball size thing on my head, and said my son, who was still in like pull-ups or diapers at the time, threw a softball and it hit me in the head so hard, and that's what had happened. And she was like, no. We were taking, I think, a Pilates class, and she said, by the way, like, I know that you told us, it's bullcrap. I just want you to know I know. And whenever you want to talk about it, I'm here.
Wow.
And I told her what actually happened. And she picked up our mats immediately, took me back to her house. And she was like, no, ma'am. What do we need to do? How can I help you? She's just a phenomenal human being. She was also a single mother at the time. So
How incredible.
I truly, though,
Mhm.
as a single mom, to be able to sacrifice like her emotional well-being and her own time and call me out on my crap in that way, because I was prepared to like die with the lie and just kind of figure it out, and help me understand. Because it's one thing to call it out yourself. It's hard to say it out loud, but to have somebody else out loud say, that's abusive.
Yeah.
This is not okay.
I
You do
know.
not deserve
hits
this.
so-
It will only get worse. It hits so much different.
Mhm.
And it kind of started this process. I went to the minister who married us, and that was a second really big thing for me. He identified like, absolutely not. God does not believe that this is a marriage. This is not what he has ordained a marriage to be. This is not how a husband should treat his wife, or vice versa. Obviously, it goes either way. And that was a thing for me, because he would
Right.
say that to me all the time. You think you're going to leave me and get divorced and you're going to be welcomed into the kingdom of heaven? Like, yeah, right, Jess. And it was this weird thing that I was hung up on.
Guilt and shame and fear.
Yeah, the spiritual abuse piece of it was bigger than I understood for a number of years after.
Wow.
So he gave me the name of a woman at Catholic Charities. We had a really 2.5 hour long first session, and she told me how to apply for food stamps and WIC and all of these different programs to help. And I did that, quick. Found a place. And again, thankfully, I had the support of my dad. He did not have any understanding prior to this moment of what my marriage was. I don't recall any bit of that conversation for some reason.
Yeah. So how old are you when you're leaving?
23.
23, 2 kids.
Yeah.
Starting life on your
$62
own.
to my name.
Wow.
Out.
Wow.
And I left like a thief in the night. I had a plan. We'd found a place. I had a plan. I told him I was leaving. I was like, it'll be fine. He's abusive and crazy and super scary, but I'm just going to tell him, by the way, I'm going to take the kids. We're going.
Yeah.
Bye. It'll be fine. I told him the day. I said, we don't have to get divorced. This house is just not safe for us. Somehow I thought that would lessen the blow and he wouldn't be angry. And when I told my friend Karen, she was like, oh, that's a bad plan.
Yeah.
How soon can we get you into the place?
Yeah.
And thankfully, she and the help of several friends came in with their pickup trucks and trash bags and got the necessities and moved us into our place. Late in the evening, and we just left and left a significant portion of our belongings behind, but none of that mattered, and put the pieces of our life back together. And I never went back. Yeah.
How old are your kids?
Both of them were under the age of 4.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Babies.
And you said something that I think is so powerfully important, which is that's not the day you survived. That's the day where your healing and the work started for survival. Now you had to relearn how to live a completely different life, but you have this dynamic of children with him.
Yeah.
So you have to go to court. And you have to live in this fight or flight world. And exactly what you said with the systems in place, even if it's not an abusive situation, divorce jurisdiction is someone has to be in the right and someone has to be in the wrong.
Yep.
It turns into this incredible battle. And then you have something like you guys have in place, which is really now you're protecting your kids.
Yeah.
You don't want to get to a world where, did you want to give him any time?
Oh, gosh, no.
Right.
None. He ended up getting 50-50. Years and years down the road.
Yeah.
But oh, yeah.
Right. So you're now in this heightened state of I have to protect my kids.
And now I'm not in the house. So now I did the thing and I left because the world told me you leave the bad guy.
Yeah.
But now the judge is telling me, okay, cool, good for you if it was so bad you left, but he gets to be with your kids and now you're not there to protect them. That was the biggest mindfuck of all time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're thinking okay, I'm doing this, and maybe mentally on the outside, you're seeing okay, I've made these changes. But you're still so deeply in fight or flight mode, in this survival mode, that it really starts to take a toll on your body.
Yeah.
And what did that look like?
A lot of it, I feel like survival and success run parallel to each other from the outside. They look so similar because it was, give me an overly full plate. Yes, I'm gonna crush it.
Totally.
Give me 100 things to do in really tight timelines. I'm going to knock all that out of the park. I don't need a whole lot of sleep. I can do all of it on my own, hyper independence, but also hyper vigilance. I was aggressively aware of the world around me and conversations happening around me. I could clock the vibe of a room. I still can. The second that I walk in, the energy, you pick up on it because that was how I survived for a significant amount of time.
Totally.
I knew how the night was going to go the second he walked through the door, but you feel like you're doing something really right in that time frame by being so independent and so aware of the world around you and tackling all these tasks at one time. And what's happening is you're keeping your body, your nervous system, your mind so busy. You physically don't have any time to heal.
Totally.
It's like you're at the
a
gym.
distraction. It's that success is a distraction.
100%. It's like being at the gym, 23 hours out of a 24-hour day. and your muscles never have any downtime.
Mm,
But the world's telling you, oh my gosh, Jess, you are so strong.
right.
Wow, how do you do it? Oh my gosh, you have 2 kids and you're in nursing school. And I was the president of the nursing club, because you can't just be a single mom in nursing school. You've got to be in the nursing club, and you can't
Mhm.
just be in the club. You got to be the president of
It's
the
almost
nursing
like you had to
club.
like prove to yourself,
Oh,
like, I got this. I
yes.
got this so much. Like, this is what I can do.
Absolutely, because there was already the stigma of being divorced,
Right.
of being a young parent, being a young single parent. So I got to like do all of these things to counteract it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're surviving, you have all of these really cool survivor skills, which are awesome and they're beautiful and they're perfectly timed. But nobody tells you that after you have survived the thing, however long it takes, you have to put them away.
Yes.
You have to put
I
them
know.
down. You cannot use them every single day of your life, because
So
they will
profound.
drain the life out of you.
It's so profound.
Maybe adapted versions of them,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't use them every day.
No, because like you said, this adrenaline kicks in, your cortisol's going, but it's also pulling from all these other areas in your body. Like, we are just chemistry when we get down to it, and we're
Yeah.
not meant to be living in that fight or flight so consistently.
Hmm.
And so it's going to hit a point where you break down.
Well, yeah. And honestly, for me, it did not happen until after I finally got remarried, which was almost 4 years
Interesting.
ago.
Wow.
No, it went for a long time. I
Wow.
functioned really well in my world, fight or flight.
Right.
And I had no idea that I was still doing it. I was on the boards of nonprofits. I started my speaking career. Now, I'm not saying it was at the exact same level of
Right.
survival mode,
Right.
but I was still doing all that. My body was running at such this heightened state. I mean, for over 15 years.
It's kind of like you went from this like survivor state in your marriage to now this survivor state in your own life, because that's all you knew. It
Yeah.
would be so uncomfortable to not having to survive.
Yes. It feels so comfortable, even though you think, okay, I'm out of my comfort zone now because
Yeah.
I left the bad relationship.
Right.
I'm doing things on my
You're
own.
getting the external validation
Mm,
of like, versus like in your marriage, you're hiding stuff. So
right.
something's wrong. But now it's like you're being praised for all these things.
Yes.
So it's a whole different thing of trying to like be conscious of the fact that you're potentially, under fueling,
Yep.
running yourself
Into the
down.
ground.
Yes.
And no one's talking about it out loud because, again, from the outside, it's
Mhm.
just, oh my gosh, nothing can take you down. You're just go, 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 going. And it feels good to hear that,
Mhm.
because that's, again, the narrative that you would rather believe.
Yeah.
And it's not like I was doing anything knowingly wrong. No one was
No.
telling me anything different.
Right.
Even when I would have crazy medical things happen, you address the fact that I had multiple blood clots in my lungs and I went on blood thinners and I was in the hospital, and we addressed these problems, and then, we move on.
Yeah. So
And
you start having clots. Was that like the first thing that happened physically?
syncopal episodes came first, and then clots was a really big one, and that was several years later.
What's a syncopal episode?
Passing out unexplainably.
Oh.
Yeah. Potentially thought it was a seizure, not a seizure. And so they do all of the investigating, try and figure out what it is. Could have been POTS. Still never really got a clear answer on that. That was that was a long time ago. And then once things kind of reside and maybe the symptoms don't come up in the way that they used to anymore, doctors kind of move on and like pat
Mhm.
themselves on the back.
Mhm.
And whatever treatment we gave to you must have worked. And yay, us. Sometimes we just don't have an explanation or an answer, and that's okay.
Totally.
Same thing with the clots. We're going to start you on blood thinners and hope that they don't come back. And it's weird that you don't have a clotting disorder. Oh, but also you're adopted. We don't have a family history. So there could be something there we don't know and we're not seeing. I've since had pretty significant genetic testing. I don't have any genetic predisposition to any kind of clotting problem at all. But they just, you treat the problem and you move on. And
Yeah.
nobody wanted to look at, including myself, nobody wanted to look at the overall picture, because it's just, you survive this big thing and you move on to the next thing.
Right.
And that's the norm of survival mode.
Yeah.
That the happiness, the peace, the calm, that's the abnormal swing to survival mode that your body doesn't know how to handle.
Mhm.
So that's why I believe that I did not get out of survival mode until I finally was in a healthy marriage and my nervous system could relax and go
And
into
you
a
had
peaceful
like
state.
someone who could help carry.
Totally freaked out because I could be calm for the first time in over a
And
decade.
what did that look like?
Oh gosh, significant weight gain, like unexplained weight gain for myself. By the time I was diagnosed with lupus, I was like 270 some pounds, which for me, again, it's not necessarily about the number. That wasn't normal for my 5'8"
Right.
frame. From
Right.
someone who was an athlete her
An
whole life.
athlete, right.
You know, my youngest daughter, who was 4, she was almost 12 pounds. I was 276 pounds when I gave birth to her, at pregnant with a
Right.
very large baby. So
Right.
to not be pregnant and be that large, that was like foreign. Crazy digestive issues. My gut health was nuts. I was in so much pain, joint pain, like I couldn't going up and down the stairs. I hit a wall the Christmas before I had got diagnosed with lupus. I was sitting down Christmas Eve wrapping presents, and I could hardly get up off the ground without being in tears. Everything just hurt. I was losing a lot of hair. Not like, you know, girls would wash their hair and you like put it on the shower wall. It was, I mean, like fistfuls of hair. It was the most bizarre. None of it was making sense. I had an emergency hysterectomy a week and a half after we got married. I had never had issues with like my cycle. Everything had pretty much been fine. I had 4 moderately healthy pregnancies, very healthy children. And then all of a sudden, bam. And we had like a crazy episode at home, and I was rushed to the hospital and had to have surgery, and like weird things all of a sudden when my body could relax and get out of such a heightened state. And then finally, I was insanely fortunate to go in to finally try and meet up with a new primary care physician. And I ended up meeting with just a nurse practitioner, not just, but I didn't meet with the actual primary doc. And I sat in there sobbing, like, I can't look in the mirror. I don't feel like myself. I wasn't sleeping. And I was sleeping so much, it was uncanny. And then I couldn't sleep, and I was always tired, but not tired, like fatigued. I could have slept 26 hours a day and still felt so tired.
Yeah.
I couldn't think clearly. And for someone whose job was talking in front of people and thinking and emoting, and I was just like a shell of this person who had just gotten happily married. Even at the time I got married, I mean, my husband was in like this beautiful love bubble, and I was pissed because I couldn't get there. I felt like someone had taken over my body. Like it was like these dueling emotions that I couldn't figure out how to navigate. So I was sitting there crying to this nurse practitioner, telling her all of these symptoms. And for the first time in almost 7 years, she scrolled all the way back through my medical chart and looked at everything that had occurred and said, "What the hell is going on?" And just ran some basic autoimmune panel labs. And lo and behold, lupus panels lit up like a freaking Christmas tree.
Wow.
And lupus is diagnostically, it's not just like one test. It's a combination of labs and symptoms and other things that give you the ability to get diagnosed. So it's not extremely simple, but it was staring us right in the face.
Right.
And probably would have been years prior if anyone had just bothered
to
look.
Whole picture, 100%. If anyone would have just bothered to look, literally. I do want to like shout out the nurse practitioners.
Hardcore.
Because I actually have a great nurse practitioner too that I've sent probably 50 women to.
Yes.
Because they do, compared to, and it's again, the way the system is set up, the doctor's got to keep it moving.
Yep.
And they don't get the insurance kickback if they're not seeing enough people throughout the day. And so having the time to even go into the detail, even if they wanted to, it doesn't exist.
You're right.
So, but nurse practitioners really seem to have a different level of like care and interest. I don't know what it is, but I've had a good experience, and everyone who I've talked to who's felt like they've finally been heard in the Western medical system, it's been through a nurse practitioner.
Stop.
So
shout out to the nurse practitioners, man. Thank you.
Like doing the Lord's work out here.
Genuinely.
Wow. So was there a feeling of relief in a way to like know what was going on and being like, okay, now I can work on healing because I know what this is?
Yes, on so many levels.
Yeah.
Because listen, no one wants to get diagnosed with anything ever. But holy cow, it had been symptomatically, when I try and look back, like to the very first thing, about 7 years of just oddities, medical oddities. And then specifically that past, whatever, year and a half, finally having an explanation. And I had this crazy rash all over my chest. It felt like lizard skin. Nobody was making sense of it. People weren't hearing me. So to know that I'm not crazy, I'm not making it
Right.
up,
Right.
there's an explanation. Okay, we can get to a treatment plan.
Yeah.
Because I'm scientifically the same way. Like, give me, okay, all right, now we know what it is. What do I do? What
Right.
can I do? And then it became like really overwhelming because the world of wellness and functional medicine and just even autoimmune wellness is really noisy.
It
And
is.
there's so many opinions and perspectives. And I am now on my 4th rheumatologist. Love him. I hope he never retires. Although I'm pretty sure he's like, oh, knocking on that door. He's been in
Oh,
practice for a long time. He's phenomenal. But again, thankfully by this point, I am completely comfortable advocating for myself. I will get a second, third, fourth, fifth opinion. I don't
mm-hmm.
care till I find a
Mm-hmm.
physician that I feel hears me.
Yeah.
Or
And that goes for the traditional or functional.
100%.
We had this conversation recently. I did a live podcast with my boyfriend, who's a functional medicine doctor, and unfortunately, this part, the Q&A wasn't recorded, and I wish it was, because someone asked a really good question, which was, there's so much noise out there in even the functional space. Like, how do I know if I'm working with a good practitioner? And I think it just always goes back to, again, learning to trust yourself and to do your own advocacy. Every single one of us is different. Every body is different. And the same approach that one person takes is not going to work for the next person.
True.
So you kind of have to be that person to bring it all together and make decisions. And if you're with any sort of doctor, even if it's a functional care doctor who you feel like isn't hearing you,
Mm-hmm.
take the red flag and go elsewhere.
Yeah.
And it's okay if you need to make a shift.
Yeah. And most practitioners of any kind, if they're good, prefer that.
Right.
Because if
true.
they're not, if they know that you feel like you're not being treated and it's just not a good fit, even if it's not a personality fit, they want you to feel cared for fully.
Totally.
And they would rather you find somebody else. I've had a physician who I was blatantly honest with about that, and they gave me referrals.
Yes.
They were great about it.
Yeah.
Because a good physician, Western, functional, doesn't matter, wants you to get exactly what you feel that you need.
Exactly.
But again, if you're not speaking up, is it exhausting to speak up for yourself? Yes. Is it daunting to constantly have to advocate for yourself? Sure, but who else is going to do it?
Who else is going to do it? And it's worth it to be able to get to a point where then you can heal.
Absolutely.
So you found this resources that were able to help you manage your lupus in a way that you feel is allowing you to survive and thrive?
For the most part, yeah. I'm still learning.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with lupus in February of 2024. I'm itching so bad right now because I was in the sun, and lupus patients are very photosensitive.
Yeah.
And I, for the longest time, thought yeah, but not me. That doesn't really apply to me.
Yeah.
But I went to Florida, and the sun hits different down there.
Yeah.
And I also, again, thought yeah, but cool, not me. And I was just getting bug bites. And then I got home and I was still developing these bug bites. They're like hives on my body. And I'm trying so hard to not itch.
Yeah.
So that's what's happening. So yeah, it's still, I'm
learning.
new into learning it all. I've had some crazy setbacks with lupus. I've had pericarditis and been hospitalized twice. I went into septic shock from a random infection that we aren't really sure. I have kids, so we're just assuming some kind of viral whatever. I had a stroke in October of 2024.
Wow. When were you diagnosed with lupus?
February 2024.
Wow.
Yeah. And so 8 months later.
Wow.
At that point, I was only on one med. So I was only on the Plaquenil, which is the very stereotypical anti-malarial lupus medication, I think anyway. And it was just so instead of a blood clot, which is automatically what we assumed was happening because I was having crazy migraines, which was not normal for me. But we just thought lupus, inflammatory, something migraine related, sure. And then I started vomiting and they got so bad. Went into our local ER, which was a standalone ER, not connected to a larger hospital. And your brain, I guess, is supposed to be two pretty little equal parts, and mine was not. I had a huge midline shift and massive inflammation. So instead of a clot or a bleed, the vessels in my brain got so inflamed, they closed off and caused a stroke. So it is scary. It sounds scary because it is, but thankfully, because there was no clot or bleed, you can correct and prevent a lot of the damage that most people would have from a stroke. So I'm insanely lucky and grateful that that was the case, because I have been able to regain through a lot of physical, occupational, and speech therapy. I lost a lot of the control of the right side of my body, but I've been able to rehab and get better. And I have come across so many people that don't have that opportunity. So right now, I just take it day by day. Today, my lupus is under control aside from this itching.
Yeah.
it's
So
okay.
now having this awareness
Hmm?
that these physical issues were brought on by this constant state of survival mode that you got in. Like, at what point did you say, like, I have to nurture the healing of my trauma, of my nervous system, of more than the physical things that, of course, you're doing?
Yeah.
And what did those look like for you?
Ooh. That was probably not until like a couple months into my lupus journey, because initially it's just rheumatology. And even my first rheumatologist, I said, okay, but like, what about this autoimmune protocol diet, AIP? And he said, oh no, there's no like approved lupus diet. That's all blah, blah, blah. So I had to do a lot of independent research to really kind of make those connections. And then once I did, it was just this whole new world unfolded, and it made so much sense. I will tell you though, that initially, once I started to discover those connections, a lot of shame like resurfaced from the abuse of it all. Cause I thought, oh my gosh, all like abuse has been a part of my life now for 22 years. So over half of my life, this has been something that I've been exposed to and been healing from. And all this time later, this is still affecting me. Like,
Yeah.
I haven't done enough work. I've done talk therapy. I've done EMDR. I've done all sorts of, you know, I've done physical therapy and all of these other things. I'm an active person, and have I not done enough? I felt really bad. I beat myself up a lot. Like I had still done something wrong to be in the position that I was to develop an autoimmune disease. So I had to kind of work through that mindset
Yeah.
initially and figure out how to not feel that way, which was just time, I think. And for me personally, prayer, when I get into these funks where something really doesn't make sense, I gut check myself and give it to God, because I'm like, yeah,
Yes.
you're not supposed to understand it. Duh. That's like, who do you think you are, Jess? You're not everything is not supposed to make sense to you.
Right.
Just know that this is what it is and move on. So
And
then
faith is, in those moments,
all you have.
all you have.
That was it. He's
Yeah.
carried me through absolutely everything.
Yeah.
The lowest of the low moments, he has carried me. And
So beautiful.
I think the older I get, the more bold and the more connected I get in my relationship with Jesus, which is so interesting because I was raised Catholic, going to church far more frequently than I do now. But I just wasn't, I guess, encouraged enough to have like my own personal relationship with Jesus. At least that's how I felt growing up. I taught a lot about who Jesus was or what the Bible stories were, but I wasn't encouraged to explore what my own relationship with him
Yeah.
would be. So I've enjoyed being able to do that, and I feel more comfortable with it the older that I get.
And that looks like prayer and time in silence
Yeah.
with
A lot of devotional time in the morning. I'm very
that.
intentional when I get up in the morning. People make fun of me. I get up very early just because I have a lot of kids in my house. It's always noisy and I need quiet. But I need quiet so I can start my day on the right foot, which
Yeah.
is with him and from a place of gratitude.
Mm.
Like I even, identified a lot of times when we would pray, we would always be asking God for things. And I just had to rewire and reframe it. Like, you do so many things in life. And I love being able to wake up now and I pray from a place of gratitude and I'm thanking him. And
Yes.
it's more conversational.
Yeah.
And I can just say, okay, like my phrase is good morning, good morning. And so I'm like, good morning, God. Thank you so much for this and this and this and this. How can I be better? How can I learn? Who can I pour into? And I just try and be open and sit with my cup of coffee in the morning.
I love that.
And then I get on the internet and I say good morning, and chat with my friends. And it just sets the temperature for my day. And I feel fulfilled and at ease. And for me, that is part of like a nervous system regulation piece.
100%.
That's huge for me.
Yes.
And once I started to realize some of those practices in healing outside of the pharmaceutical meds and explore more of the functional medicine side of things, massive game changers. And it was interesting because even, and I teach some of this now, things like safety scripts, they sound like affirmations, but really they're in like moments of panic, things that you can tell yourself repetitively to calm your nervous system down, calm your heart rate down. Like, I am in control of my body. I may not be in control of this moment. I am in control of my body. I'm in control of my thoughts, because my thoughts, I'm like a worst case scenario kind of gal.
I
I
feel
will
you,
talk
girl.
myself down a deep, dark rabbit hole. But I had realized I'd been doing that for a very, very long time, but just not in a practiced fashion.
Mhm.
So a lot of the stuff that I've learned with nervous system regulation, it's the habitual nature of it that really restructures our body. When you
100%.
do anything once or twice, it can be effective. You can go out there and shoot a free throw, and
Mhm.
maybe you're just naturally talented and you're going to make
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
But to be good at something and really rewire the damage that has been done to your body, you have to do it all the time.
It's so true. And that's such a great reminder, I think, because, whether it's prayer, consistent morning routine that keeps you grounded, or
Mhm.
meditation, or whatever it is that is working to ground yourself and downregulate that nervous system, you don't know it's working right away.
Right.
You don't know until then you're in that moment where you're triggered and you can say, okay, I can feel this. I recognize this and I don't have to react to this. And that's when you know, like, oh my gosh, like that past year of spending my mornings with God
Mhm.
is why I know that He's got me in this moment.
Mhm.
But if you don't spend the time to rewire exactly like you said on a cellular level, we just divert back to that survival mode, that reaction, that fight or flight that is so ingrained in us
Yep.
for 22 years plus, right?
Yeah.
So it's so powerful. And I'm so inspired by your ability to continue to navigate. I mean, the fact is, like, no one is ever like, okay, I'm healed,
Yes.
like,
I
look at
agree.
me. No, I think that's what's so cool is it's like now you have the tools.
Yep.
Now you know how to navigate the challenges that are ultimately going to continue to come your way.
Yeah, because I think people, and I had this philosophy too, especially when it comes to like healing and regulation, and like the opposite of being healed or regulated is not perfection, is not just
Right.
peace.
Yep.
Okay. All
Yep.
the time. You're still going to have trials and tribulations and hardships. Now you just have the tools
Exactly.
to be able to handle them better
Yes.
and in a more regulated fashion.
Yeah.
But we have convinced ourselves somehow that, oh my gosh, if my life isn't absolutely perfect and rainbows and butterflies and sunshine all the time, that there's like something wrong with me, or that's not normal, or I'm broken. Absolutely not.
Totally.
That is the normal part of life. And instead of bracing for the impact of that and always having to go, 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 go to stay so busy that like you don't feel the bumps, actually when you're calm and regulated in such a way where you can ride the bumps a little bit easier through life,
Yeah.
you're not going to upset your body in the same fashion that you did in years prior.
Absolutely.
And the peace, just like it did when I chose to leave my abusive marriage, my kids for me. Some of this stuff is hard to articulate and like teach. When you have teenagers, I don't want to hear what the hell you have to say. But, I had these people who are not so little anymore, but they're watching everything. And I know if I'm feeling a certain way, everybody heals from trauma differently and feels trauma differently, but they're feeling pieces of it.
Yeah.
So I just try. That's really part of what motivates me to heal and do things out loud is authentically in the way that I do, because I know they see it, even if they don't tell me.
Yeah.
And I may not be able to specifically sit them down at the dining room table and say, this is why mommy's doing this and this and this and how I feel and what that means. But I hope one day when they're feeling something similar, they can remember me talking about it or doing it and
Yes.
learning by me leading in that way.
And by your energy, they can feel
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And it's such this underrated reality of like us being energetic beings. But as parents, friends, spouses, the most powerful thing that we can do for other people is to align our energy for ourselves because other people around you can feel that
Yep.
and it encourages them to act in that manner. And how incredible that now you're putting your kids in an environment where they
Mm.
get to learn love, calm, peace,
I hope so.
joy, right?
Yeah, that's what I pray
Versus
for them.
what, could have been had you stayed in this tumultuous survivor
Yeah,
environment.
because I know pieces of that. I mean, that's a whole other podcast, but the nature versus nurture piece
Yeah.
is there in a massive way. Those were formative years for them when they witnessed and experienced how that household ran. So it was not an easy task, and it's not anything that's ever, like you said, you're never just healed. It's not going to
Yeah.
go away.
Yeah.
And that's like the stigma of domestic violence of it all. Whether if I even had just a nickel, since we don't have pennies anymore, for every time someone told me, you don't look like a domestic violence survivor. But man, you're never over it. It doesn't leave you. And
No.
I think that's where so much of the shame gets associated with, I don't care if it's domestic violence, any piece of trauma, we try and shove it down. Whether you're a cancer survivor, people don't want to talk about it anymore because it was so hard and it was so sad. But look what you overcame. And look what you've done with it.
Yeah.
And there is somebody out there, I don't care if it's online, at a coffee shop, at church, at work, your next door neighbor that watched you go through that, silently watched you, and they are in awe of the strength that you exhibited. And if you talk about it just a little bit out loud to the world, you are igniting something in them to take on their own challenges in some way. And the contagiousness of that is so
It's
beautiful.
so
And that's what
beautiful.
we need more
We
of.
need more of it because it's such an incredible thing to witness someone independently growing and healing, but it's the ripple effect that it creates collectively. It's going back to a society where we feel like we have to stay in a marriage for a perfect out external. It's going through the system, divorce court of pitting your children against you. It's not being heard
Mm,
in a medical system when you're having these issues happen. It's all of us taking our power back, each one of us doing these things for ourselves is so big for the world around us.
huge.
It's really revolutionary.
And I'm not saying, man, that feels like a lot of pressure. While you're doing it, do it for yourself.
Do it for yourself
Do it for yourself,
and
but no, people are watching.
and just know that it's like, maybe you can't do it for yourself and maybe you need to know that like,
Do it for
okay,
someone
I
else
could do
then.
this because I can help the collective. And I think some people think like who cares? Like you said
Yeah,
earlier, I can take the abuse, like whatever. You just like get yourself in this space where you're like, this is just what I deserve. But you might be doing one small step for yourself that creates this massive impact on people around you. And
true.
it's so powerful.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. And you never know who those people are when you're going
Hmm.
to meet them.
Yeah.
So you have to continually just put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
And it's going to look different for everybody,
Yeah.
whether you're healing, whether you're in a growing season, whether you're really thriving
Yeah.
and rocking and rolling. It doesn't matter. I mean, when I started, even on my lupus healing journey, if you would have told me then in February 2024, that I'd be sitting here with you having just had a TED Talk go live and I would have, I would have laughed you out of the freaking room. I mean, that version me, I mean, you talk about gut health. I didn't learn until recently how connected your gut health and your oral health are. I hardly had any teeth in my mouth because my broken jaw had offset so many things and didn't go treated, but also the connection between your oral microbiome and gut health and
Yeah.
all of these things. And I had massive oral surgery over the summer. And now, for the first time in years, I can smile on stage and I can talk to people and I can just like be the truest version of myself. And like,
Yeah.
but all of these other really yucky things had to happen for me to get to a place where what I feel is really my telling my story and sharing some of the really low moments.
Because the low moments are when, I think it's hard to like conceptualize in a way because we don't want to think that God is out to hurt us.
Hmm.
But these challenges are gifts
Yes,
and they are from God and they are meant to help us become this higher version of ourselves. And if
absolutely.
you can know in that moment by looking at someone else and saying, like, wow, like healing was available for them, it's available for me too. It is.
And I think I struggled with that for a little while, even specifically with my mom. Oh, that was hard. Like, God's plan. that really, and I know a lot of people who get hung up on that. And gosh, and now the verse is escaping me. But essentially, it teaches us that pain is part of life, not necessarily that it's specifically in God's plan for us to experience this exact moment of
Right.
pain, but that pain is just part of life in order for God to teach us the lessons that He has in store.
Yes.
What is part of God's plan is the beautiful lessons that come out of that pain, that He will carry us through that pain. That is part of His plan.
Right.
Not that He wanted to directly rip my mom away from me at 20 years old.
Totally.
You can't, again, don't be so obsessed with the why and the heartache and the hardship that you're missing out on the beautiful lesson
And the
of it all.
gratitude.
The gratitude is
It's
huge.
huge. You really can change your life by gratitude alone.
Being able to ground myself in gratitude every single morning has probably changed me the most.
Yeah.
I feel like it lowers my shoulders, it lowers my cortisol, my blood pressure. I mean, everything. It has shifted my perspective in such like I've always been corny. I've always been a complete cornball, but like this, just in a massive, corny, grateful, happy kind of way, you feel almost like unshaken. Okay,
Yes.
bad shit's gonna happen. But you know what? It's happened the past 40 years. Why do I think it's not gonna happen the next 40?
Exactly.
I'm grateful for it. I
Yes.
get asked all the time, do you have any regrets? Do you wish this marriage wouldn't have happened or this bad moment? Or what about this abuse or the stroke? No, I would not be exactly who I am and have the
Exactly.
life that I have right now without each of those moments.
So, and when you can find gratitude for all those steps, that's when you know you're living at a higher vibration. And that's when you can handle
Yeah.
this, whatever comes, and it switches from a worst case scenario mindset to a best case scenario mindset because you're like, even if the worst happens, I'm okay and I'm
Hmm.
grateful and I know I'm going to be good.
Yeah,
And that's so freeing.
it is. And I'm not saying I still have like really panicky, spirally moments. Don't
Right.
get me wrong. I can get myself out of it a little bit better.
Exactly.
And like you said earlier, I mean, I promise you, you will get there. And I have had like these light bulb moments where I'm like, oh, I know this feeling. Oh, it's not as bad. Okay,
I
I
can
can
do
handle it
this.
now.
Yeah.
Okay, I have these tools. I've done like tapping before and breathing. I'm not great at meditating. I need to be better. My husband's awesome. He's way calmer than I am. He balances me out in that way. And he's like, you need to sit the hell down and breathe. And I can't
But I always say it's
calm
in
very
whatever
well.
way works for people.
Bingo.
Like quiet, you can't hear your divine power without silence.
Hmm.
And so it's like you might be doing your prayer and your affirmation, but like that is your form of meditation.
Bingo.
So it's like everyone
Everybody
does it in a
has.
different way, but
Yeah.
it's like finding the space and the time
Yeah.
to be with yourself, to be with your higher power, to be out of the external chaos.
You're right.
Yeah. So you're doing it, girl.
I'm getting there. We're getting there.
So what's next for you?
What is next? I have some cool speaking opportunities coming up. I am working on writing something, so we're going to see how that
Love
comes into
that.
fruition and what that looks like.
I love it.
Yeah.
Very cool. So where can everyone find you?
You can find me on social media pretty much anywhere at Jess Patz, JessPatz. And I do have a website, www.jesspatz.com. It's a little crazy and under construction, so don't judge me, but it is there.
I love it. And where are we finding your TED Talk YouTube?
On YouTube. If you just go into YouTube and look for Jess Patz TEDx, it should pop up for you.
I love that. Jess, thank you so much for coming on the show, for sharing your story, for being a light, for all of us to continue to be our most authentic selves. It's so cool.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. If you guys like this episode, please like and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. You can follow the show at Raw the Pod and join the Cheeky community at TheCheekyClean. And we'll continue to have powerful, real conversations to help us all grow. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you.